Good evening, everyone. It's 7:32 on Tuesday, March 17th, St. Patty's Day. I'd like to welcome you all to the Darien Board of Finance regular meeting. First item on our agenda, as always, is public comment. Seeing no guests in our audience tonight, I'm assuming there will be no public comment. So on our agenda here, we have a couple sort of administrative transfers and items related to our bonds that we're going to sort of finish up, and then we're going to move and discuss the audit and our accountants. Then we're going to move to the majority of tonight's meeting will all be based on the reviewing different budget areas. So the first item on our agenda under transfers is to discuss and take action on the request to transfer $6,872 from the Board of Finance capital reserve, was it within the reserve fund for capital non-recurring expenditures, to a portable sound system capital account.
Sure. So this transfer was brought to us by Parks and Rec and the First Selectman. This is, I believe the sound system was proposed to the board during the last budget cycle, FY26. It was a kind of a two-speaker system that got paired back to a one-speaker system to see if that would be sufficient. Unfortunately, it's been determined that it's not sufficient, so this transfer represents kind of the second speaker in that kind of proposed plan.
Can you advise us why it's not sufficient?
I think it's, I don't know if Jen can speak to it, sure.
You can come to the podium.
Jen Fava, Director of Parks and Recreation. So as Josh mentioned, we had come originally for a two-speaker system, asked to pair it back. We did. The First Selectman asked that we come and move forward, asking for the second one. What potentially happens is if you have an event or a crowd that's not in one direction, right, the sound is only being projected this way. So say you're doing a speech. I think he came across this situation, so he was making a speech or something, and the crowd was kind of around in a semicircle. Well, if you have the one speaker, people here might be hearing it, but the people over here are not. So it's so that we can set it up in both ways. The other additional equipment was also asked, that was requested, was some
Lapel
not
mics.
handheld mics, like a headset mic, as well as lapel mics, so that you could do things without having to hold a microphone in your hand.
So is this the same vendor as?
Yes, and it will connect. Well, it'll be able to connect to the two speakers.
What are the example of some of the events that you've used, the current one that we bought last year?
We used it at Old Fashioned Holiday, so we used it there. Fortunately,
Is that held outside or?
It's outside, yeah. I think the one where we really saw that the issue was, I think it was the wreath. We loaned it to the group, I can't think of the name of it, but they do the wreaths and in the cemetery in December. No, Wreaths Across America, thank you. And I think the crowd, what he noticed was the crowd was kind of spread out in different areas. So we did use it for that. We'd be able to use it for, we did not have it on site when they did Veterans Day, so they would be able to use, beautification would be able, or monuments and ceremonies would be able to use it for that. And we would do it for some other events as well.
So is this like 2 or 3 times a year we're using it? And
no, I think we would be finding we will use it more and more frequently. We did use it also for our Halloween event that we did this fall. So we're hoping to also, with our new staff that's on board, that we'll be doing more events as well. So this system will allow us to do that more easily and again be able to utilize it with some other agencies or kind of town functions if need be.
And in the example of the Wreaths Across America, which I think is a great charity, like, do we loan it out to them? Like, do we make sure like they know how to use it and so forth?
Yes.
I have a couple of these at home.
Yes, so I mean, we don't typically
technical.
lend this out. It's not, again, it's an expensive piece of equipment. We don't just lend it out to anybody, but if there are organizations like that, again, Monuments and Ceremonies or some other groups that might need to use it that are sort of town-based or whatever. They came in, they sign off on a waiver, and that they are responsible to, if something goes wrong with it, that they need to, cover the cost to replace it. Go over everything, how to use it, and that's part of the beauty of this system is it's very simple. So, because the year before, to have a system that was large enough, we ended up having to bring staff in on overtime, have them set up and do the whole thing. So this way we're able to just kind of give it to them and let them use it.
What's the average life on it? How long do they last?
Probably 10 plus years.
Okay.
I mean, it's not.
Warranty, all that
Yeah,
stuff? Okay.
there's warranties. They were, so they're, especially depending on use, and we're not going to kill it. So it should, and as long as we take good care of it, which we do, I mean, it comes with a special case. I mean, it looks like you could probably fit a body in it, in the size of the bag. But it's definitely well protected, and we, we'll keep it in good condition.
Josh, is there a reason we're doing this from capital and just not from our contingencies, given it's so small?
Well, because the initial request was in capital, so we're kind of just filling out the projects.
I can see the necessity for it. I was a little stunned last year by the cost of it, I guess, for a commercial grade versus a residential grade, because I think you probably get, maybe you get 70 or, this is a guess, you get 70 to 80% of functionality for a fraction of the cost, but you probably don't get the durability and the quality and all that. So overall, it's not that huge an expenditure, so I'm inclined to support it. It's a little surprising to see how expensive it is.
I would agree with you in terms of the overall expense. I think where we are now is we already bought one. So if we're going to match another one up with it, you can't use like Soundbox, some of these other lower cost models out there now. So, any other discussion? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to transfer from our capital reserve to the portable sound system, $6,872. Taylor moves. Paul seconds. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thanks, Jennifer. Okay, item 2 on our agenda is discuss and take action on the Board of Finance resolution to sell bonds and bond anticipation notes in our upcoming bond sale. As a reminder, this is not a bond authorization or appropriation. That's been passed by the RTM a few years ago, and then as you recall, one of these, the one particularly dealing with Great Island, we had revised that further downward, right? This is the resolution that we pass just as a board to actually give our advisors and our staff the direction to move forward with to go sell the bonds, which right now we're anticipating the first or second week of April, assuming, depending on where the market is. When we looked at this sort of resolution to sell, there were a couple issues I think that we as a board discovered is that the numbers were in there were very prescriptive in terms of that resolution dictated that we sell a certain par amount of bonds, and knowing that we'd have a premium of close to 5%, I think we as a board determined that we didn't want to issue more debt or debt with higher coupons that generated more proceeds than what we actually needed. So, I sent you all around this resolution. I worked with Josh and Mark and our counsel, at the back end of last week to put together an updated resolution, which is included in the packet here. It's the same one that you all saw, at the end of last week. I would kind of point out 2 things. The first paragraph that talks about the bond anticipation notes, if you add up the 4 different numbers that are in there, 1.1 million, 1.8, 3.6, and 3.9, those total 10.69 million of bond anticipation notes. And that's the actual amount, I think, that we've set up the prospectus that we're going to sell, and I think we're all acknowledging that 10.69 $6 million will come with a little bit, probably 1% or so of bond premium that we discussed with Mark, and we'll give him specific direction. And if I'm chosen as Board of Finance rep, I'll ensure that it happens, that 1% premium, that 100,000, if you will use to be paid part of the allocable costs, about 15% of this issuance, and the rest will remain in that sort of proceeds account that we can use to fulfill other projects. The second paragraph that you see is the one that we had, I think, most of the discussion around, and the big changes there were before each of the projects, we said on the par amount, an amount up to that amount. And if you add up all of those up to amounts, it gets to the 67.56 million, right? And then in addition, the cost of issuance, about 85% of it would be allocable to the bonds, and then it would be sub-allocated to each of these, different kind of 10 projects or so that are in here. But the instructions that we gave to Josh and Mark, last week, and I think that now everyone's on board, is that we're going to be targeting 67.56 million of proceeds, plus the small amount, an extra kind of 115 or so of allocable cost of issuance. So we're not going to be over issuing. We're going to be targeting proceeds that come out to 67.56 million, plus a little bit for cost of issuance. And if they do indeed come in at a premium, we'll just dial down the par amount so that within a rounding error, we're targeting that as proceeds. So there's also a small change as in the maturity date. In the third paragraph. So let me stop there. Any questions?
No.
Okay.
No, that works.
So as part of approving this, the one thing that we do need to do is we choose, each time we choose a Board of Finance representative that joins Josh, our advisors, our town treasurer, and so forth at the bond offering to sort of witness the bids that come in and just make sure that the way they're moving forward in this case, targeting proceeds is that's all followed. So
I nominate Jim Palin as Board of Finance rep for the bond deal pricing.
Yeah.
Second.
okay, all those in favor of including James Palin as the Board of Finance rep? Okay, it's unanimous. So what I'll do is I'll entertain a motion to approve this, which I won't read, I'll waive the reading of it, this Darien Board of Finance resolution to issue bonds with me as the Board of Finance rep. Dan moves, Taylor seconds, all those in favor? Unanimous. And Josh, thank you again to you. I know Mark's and our attorney is not here, but you guys did a lot of work, and I think we've set up a good process, I think, moving forward.
Sure,
in terms of
absolutely.
how we'll draft these, so thank you. Okay. Item number 3 is discuss extending our contract with CLA or deciding whether we should conduct an audit RFP. Josh?
Yeah, so typically when we contract out with an auditor, we put together a 3-year term for them before we kind of re-examine whether we want to continue with them and have them change the principal auditor on our file, or if we want to do an RFP. It's been a couple years since we've done an RFP, and I think at that time, I believe CLA was the only respondent. I would say we actually had, because of a retirement in CLA, a brand new principal come on anyway this year, and that worked out pretty smoothly. It would be my recommendation, since they did such solid work this past year, to kind of keep on with them for at least a couple more years, and then kind of reassess whether it's time to go back out there and see.
3-year contracts?
I can talk to them and see if
For 2 years?
would go to another 3-year contract like that, or if it would be kind of
Year to
just
year.
a year to
Okay.
year like that.
I thought they were great.
They were wonderful, yeah, absolutely. Especially the staff that came into the actual office and worked with us kind of day to day. They were super knowledgeable and kind of got after what they were looking for pretty easily.
And Josh, this was your kind of first year.
Yeah, this was my first
Going
year
through
with
audit.
them, and it was incredibly smooth, and honestly, the amount of work that they put in versus some other audit firms that I've been familiar with, they're by far and away a lot more on top of things. Yeah.
And Josh, I know you kind of spearheaded on this side, but I know the Board of Ed has to deal with them as well. Any complaints or
No, not at
issues
all.
on that side?
I mean, it's been super smooth with them. It's the same group that comes here and goes there, and I'm pretty much talking to June the entire time from the Board of Ed, and it's a pretty good process they have going.
Taylor, you have.
I was just gonna ask, do we think there are other firms that would want to participate in this? If we did an RFP?
I don't know. I mean, I only know of really one other audit firm that really operates in our general area. And I think that's O'Connor Davies. But I don't know if they would go through it, if they put out a bid on the RFP. But I think it's always a valuable thing to do an RFP every so often to kind of gauge what's out there and at least get some competitive pricing and so on. But in terms of cost, I know they are much lower than New Canaan was with O'Connor Davies, and at least for the product that we get, I think it's a pretty solid bet.
Does New Canaan use someone else?
Yeah, they use O'Connor Davies.
Well, we don't want to use them then.
Okay.
Well, he just said they were more expensive.
They were, and it was a lot more work on like the town side, on the administrative side of things. Yeah.
I kind of think we should probably stay with the principal leaving, so we rotated this year, right? It's almost getting like a fresh new set of eyes with it, if you want to say
Absolutely.
that. Like the audit work would be the audit work, but getting a different perspective from, I was stunned last time that we only had one bid. But it's not surprising considering everyone is scrambling for the same accounting folks, right? So I think they just devote resources toward audits they want to take, so
Yeah.
I'm okay rolling it another.
And
I think, for me, it's like 2 years maybe. I wouldn't go 3, Josh. but
Yeah, to hit
a
that
couple
third
years,
year
and then
with
we-
the-
And then in 2 years from now, let's see what the landscape looks like and maybe put an RFP out then.
Yeah.
I kind of I know what Taylor's saying on that. I just think there's a dearth of accounting talent out there.
Even within the firms, I think they have trouble finding accountants, at least in this sector, so.
Yeah.
Compounds with that.
Okay. So do we need to formally vote here to tell you that we don't want to conduct an RFP and to work with them?
No, you need to formally vote to do it. And I mean, we're not voting on a proposed contract or anything like that. But I guess with your instruction, I'll just reach out to CLA, get together what their kind of budget looks like for the next couple of years, and then either bring it back to you if it needs to, or, kind of.
Perfect. I think that works. If something comes back unexpected, then we can always pivot at that point.
Absolutely.
Thanks for bringing this up, Josh.
Yeah.
Of course.
Okay, so the fourth item on the agenda, and our last working item, is going to be to run through a number of different budget categories. I think the order that we have them in here, we have Parks and Rec first and Police second. I think I would keep that order, and we'll go with just those two, because that's where we have staff and department heads here. And Jen looks tired, so we'll let her go first. So, I know on Parks and Rec, Dan, you and Jenny, I think
Yeah,
we're
Jenny's gonna take
partners
Yeah.
on that.
Sure, I can
Okay.
lead off
Yeah,
if you want.
Jen, do you want to come up? And Jennifer, if you want to go up, and you can either sit here or if you want to stand.
Should I just sort of do the recap, and if you have
Yeah.
questions, yeah?
Jenny, do you want me to share the
That'd be
screen?
great,
Yeah,
sure.
that'd be great.
That would be helpful
Great.
for these people watching. Wait a minute. So, first off, nice job on this budget. I thought it was very clear and clean, and I can just kind of take everybody, kind of what happened. Proposed budget is $2,518,060 in gross expenditures, which is up $138,409, 5.8%. We also had that offset with a revenue increase, $1,486,500 with a net increase of $112,000, which is up 8.2%. Our net cost to the town is $26,409. Did I get that right? Yeah. So I just noticed, like, if you think about, this is a town of 22,000 people, the Parks and Rec Department has a lot of oversight of a tremendous amount of property, and on a net basis, it costs them just over $1 million to run all of this. So it's the net change is a net change of 2.6%.
Which is 1%,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Roughly.
So it's the biggest change, the biggest thing that happened in this budget is that the Youth Services / Youth Commission was rolled up into the Parks and Rec umbrella. And, following the transfers out of one department into the other, if you looked at that, some of the, increases, some of the increases would look really high, but it's actually coming out of another budget. So, I think it was the right thing to do to bring Youth Commission underneath the Parks and Rec umbrella, so that's great. The Parks and Rec admin up 24%, $154,000. That's because you're taking on the Youth Commission. There is the beach and court facilities up roughly $300,000, which is only a 2.1% change. That's the new Moby mat, the ADA rollout mat at Wheat Beach. There's some minimum wage increases. The recreation facilities maintenance part up 4.6%, largely due to minimum wage increases. I believe also, catch me if I read that all as typical wage increases. Thank you for putting money into water 24 trees at Pear Tree. I really appreciate that, personally, because several years ago when we would put plantings in, we would not think to water them, so that's good. Organized rec and events, that's really a reflection of the Youth Commission events coming in. And I noticed that programming revenue was down, is that right?
Slightly.
Slightly.
Yeah.
Do you, any color on that?
That at the moment is based on kind of where we've seen some of the trends.
Yeah.
However, again, I think with our new staff.
Right. You had a hire, right?
We had, yes, so one left, so we had one vacancy, and then also bringing on our new person that's handling camps and things like that.
Right.
There will be other programs that we're going to be having both do. So we're hoping that we'll be able to actually surpass that budget from a revenue standpoint and to offer some more programs and fresh eyes, fresh ideas, things like that. So we wanted to be safe. Plus, we actually were building this before we had people in place. So hopefully we will come in above that and for revenue.
I noticed that, so in the paddle, you had a reduction in paddle revenue, but you're also bought the pickleball rollout you're going to be using that paddle court.
Right.
For
So
an additional pickleball court, right?
So last year we got one pickle roll. We put that down. It was so late in the season. We don't really have a good judge for it. So that one will be going out probably middle of April, early to mid-April. Based on the weather, we don't want it. Last time we also did it when it was super hot, and we think that had played a role in how it adhered.
Yeah.
So we don't want to do it when it's too cold either. So we're going to have to play around with temperatures. But so this year we'll get a full season out of that. So hopefully we'll gain some other revenue from reservations on that court. We did put in for capital for a second, which again we'll be able to hopefully, by the time we get everything from budget, with July 1, I don't know, would we put it down this year or even bother? It would depend on how long it takes to get it.
Okay.
But then we would have two courts hopefully available, that we'll be able to do reservations on there as well.
Okay. And then on the grounds, fields, and buildings, they have a $39,000 tree maintenance, which is really when you have to hire out, my understanding is right, when you have to
Correct.
bring in big equipment that we don't have to take down a big tree that's come down or something.
Correct, or if it's near buildings, we won't deal with those if we need equipment larger than ours or you need somebody to climb. And we do have in there also, kind of focused on some tree pruning and things like that to try to also extend the life of some of the trees that we do have and improve the tree canopy.
And lastly, I saw that you added water testing for ponds, and I know that came up
Yes.
because when we talked about related to the dredging project, particularly at Cherry Lawn,
Right.
when we wanted to make sure that we were solving a problem.
Exactly.
Right,
So yes, we added that in so that we can keep maintaining it and so that we know what's going on rather than catching it too late. We'll be able to see as we go.
Okay.
So we would expect and hope that that would be an annual expense, right? Going forward.
The testing?
Yeah.
Yes, yes, okay.
That's a very high-level summary on operating. Does anyone have any questions that they want to, or Dan, would you like to add?
I would just, could you go through the rationale, which I think we both agree with, for combining these services into Parks and Rec? Just kind of give the Board of Finance and the public the rationale for doing that.
Well, I think we were duplicating a lot of services, right? It's a lot of programming. One of the biggest things was camp. Most Parks and Recreation departments run the camps themselves. So it's a lot of the same type of work. Additionally, our office staff, we have 2 part-time secretaries, and it was always split. Youth Services paid for one, and Parks paid for the other. So we also share office space. So it really made a lot of sense for us to just kind of combine because people were kind of doing both tasks anyway. And I think I actually think it helps with sort of like the team cohesion. We're all working together. Our 2 new staff are great. They're helping each other out. I mean, one started in January and one just started the end of last month. So everybody's kind of involved in things. They can work on events together. One will take the lead on one and one will take the lead on another. So I think it's really good to have everybody kind of working together with the same goals. It's, as I said, we did so many of the same things. We would do, there would be a movie at Highland or something and it was Youth Services and Parks and Rec. It was brought to you by both. So this way we're just merging it together.
Thank you.
It seemed to make sense at this
It
time.
makes a lot of sense. Yep.
In the past, there had been some concern about invasive vegetation. How is that being dealt with going forward?
We're handling a lot of that just in-house. So I think our staff has gotten trained over the last couple of years and have increased their knowledge as to what they should be doing, keeping an eye on things. So we're trying to eradicate that as much as we can. There are some things, and there is money in there for, like we had done with the dunes at Weed Beach, because the maintenance for the mugwort on that is just so intensive and we don't have the manpower or the time, so we've contracted that out. So we did include additional funds in there to expand that into the, I believe, west side of the dunes. So we're adding to that as well. So we're trying to get on top of it and stay ahead of it.
Can I ask you, when it comes to training your staff on how to identify and like continually deal with, monitor, cut, prune as they see it, how do you do that? Are you bringing people in to say, today's lesson is on porcelainberry?
Not to that extent,
Okay.
but as things have come up, if we're involved with Connecticut Recreation and Park Association, National Recreation and Park Association, some other things. So as we see information or if there's a course being offered, things like that, I always offer it up to staff. We've had staff take advantage of some I don't remember what it was exactly called, but like a pre-arborist kind of program so that they could understand that. So I'm very supportive of anything that we can do to help just continue the education for people. And a lot of them are actually interested and willing to go, which is good. So.
Well, I'm just curious what's happening with paddle and why there's like fewer people playing.
So I wouldn't say there are fewer people playing, but I would say what the issue is, we have a false indicator of COVID. So where we're at now is back to pre-COVID levels.
I gotcha.
So what was happening, right, we're comparing to 2020, 2021, when everybody was home, nobody could go anywhere.
Okay.
The only thing you could do was outside. So we still see a lot of usage in the evenings and on the weekends. What the difference is during the daytime, during the week, now people are back at work. They're not, because when they were working from home, they snuck out for an hour
Makes
and they
sense.
played, and then they'd go back to work. So that's really what
That
we're
makes sense.
seeing.
Yeah.
No town of Darien employees.
No, not at all.
Now, do you want to go into capital also, or do you want to come back to capital?
I just had one question on the expenditures, on the, in terms of like the revenue that we bring in from so many of our events, right, that kind of all flow through the special revenue fund. Creates a lot of surplus revenue, right? We're not accounting for our capital costs, but the revenues that we're bringing in are far greater than like the expenses. Do you find there's a big variation across all the different programming and camps and so forth? Are some sort of highly accretive to generating that net revenue, and others, either negative or much lower? And do you reevaluate the programs and say maybe we do reevaluate? We'll take a look, and if something isn't running, for that program line, we don't lose any money because we work all of those as a contractual. We take a cut of we do revenue sharing. So whatever we're charging, typically we're on an 80-20 split. So if we can run the program and they're willing to do it for 2 kids, we're not losing. Yes, overhead, if you started to count in overhead and all of that in our time, yes, we're losing money, but we're not expending any funds for that. But we do look at that on a regular basis. If there's something that isn't running, should we try it again? Sometimes we'll try it again for another season. We do surveys. We'll send surveys out to people that are taking it, see where things are going. If we can't do it, we'll say we're not going to keep running that class, and we'll focus our efforts on something else. Got it. Okay.
And just to point out, the surplus is it's modestly down from a year ago, speaking to
that program line?
Programming.
Yes.
It's down $9,000 year over year, which speaks to the intensity of usage, which is stable at best.
Right. So, some of our things, we are trying to, again, expand. So we're saying like tennis lessons are a huge thing for us. So we're trying to get the instructor, you need to get us a 4th or 5th instructor, or whatever it is, on particular days that are heavy, where we have big wait lists. So we're trying to accommodate, as well where we can and expand so that we can keep growing.
Any other questions on operating? We can go over capital. Pull up the capital. This year, the capital request for Parks and Rec is $163,000, broken out by, under Cherry Lawn, resurface the pickleball courts for $40,000, patching with the parking lot for $50,000.
At McGuan, right?
Sorry?
That was parking lot at McGuan.
McGuan.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Take that back. McGuan, yes, yeah, which Dan went to go see. And then Weed Beach, we've got nothing at Tilly at the moment, but I'm going to come back to I'm going to ask you about the dredging project and how that's going. So let me come back to that. Houlihan Field, nothing. Weed Beach, strip the paddle court paint for $20,500. Pickle roll court system, that's the $12,700 that you're looking at. Pear tree, we got enough going on there that we didn't need anymore. Small capital for Parks and Rec equipment, 5,000, tree replacement, 6,000, and then 2 stand-on mowers for 28,800. So we'll start with that. You can, from what I understand, those are pretty old, right?
Yes,
And
they're
so-
over 20 years old
Yeah,
each.
and they're, I
They're replacing walk-behind mowers?
Yes, currently they're walk-behind
Right.
mowers, so these are, I mean, you stand on them,
Right.
but they're a little bit easier on the body
Yeah,
for,
of course.
for our workers. But those mowers are used on the majority of
Yeah.
our locations, so they get heavily used, and they're over 20 years each.
Okay, and then you broke out the ADA, right, where'd it go?
What's
This,
that?
on the second page,
Oh.
there's a ADA section that they
Okay.
broke out. Cherry Lawn, the Circulation ADA Accessible Routes Study Plan, that's a consultant fee for 75,000, and the bathhouse renovation for 40,000. My question there was, so on the 75,000 for the circulation study, I want to make sure that when you're going out for or when the consultant submits a response, that we're, under the scope of services, are we getting ideas, or are we going to get like, here are 3 options with 3 rough cost estimates, directions you can go? Are we going to get like clear, I just want to make sure we're not just going to get a beautiful PowerPoint full of a bunch of great ideas that everything can happen, of all the things that can happen at Cherry Lawn, right? So
Right. And
is it,
I do want to stress that this is not about adding anything to Cherry Lawn. It's really making what's there, what the current use is.
right?
But if you look at it and based on the ADA, the access audit that we had, almost all of our amenities there are not accessible because grass is not accessible. So you can't get to the tennis courts, you can't get to the pickleball courts, you can't get to the fields, the pond, the gazebo, or the gardens. So everything then kind of shifts from there, and that's why you need to look at it holistically, the entire property, because even the parking lots, right? So the parking spaces have to be on certain angles and can't be more than certain grades and all that. So right now, they don't meet the needs. So even how we adjust parking lots or things like that all need to come into play. So the deliverables include, actually I made a quick list, was it will be, they'll do an existing conditions and analysis plan because you need to start with that. They would do different planning, so they will track data, take different counts of pedestrians and traffic and see how all that flows. This plan would give us like 2 conceptual plans they would take us through. As we would go through that, then you would come up with a preferred plan, where do we want to go?
Can I ask who's involved? Like, are you inviting the public in for focus groups, or how's the feedback going to be taken from?
We haven't determined that exactly. I think it'll probably go through the Parks and Rec Commission. It could be open meetings with the commission. Definitely we want to get feedback from the community, and that's how we would come up with the preferred plan. Once we have that, they would then be able to discuss with us potential phasing, construction costs. They would give us an opinion of probable cost, as well as a planned narrative that would go with it. So we would be able to do that and see just like, okay, is there stuff that we can phase? The problem is so much stuff is intertwined. I don't know, can it be phased, or can we do it, or does it need to be kind of all at once, or how would we do that? So that'll all be part of that process going through.
And that opens the door to the $40,000 bath renovation, bathhouse. So like the thing that jumped out at me is like, if you're looking to hire a consultant who's ready to go to give you a plan, wouldn't that bathroom renovation be part of that?
So,
I would hate to spend 40 grand on the bathrooms to
Right.
find out.
You're in the wrong
so,
place.
so the
You're in the
reason.
right, you gotta
Yeah.
start over.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the reason for the bathroom renovation, so it was already in there. There was work
Yes.
that needed to be done, you know, just to update it. What was determined through the audit, and I think it was around $20,000 is what had been in there in the past. What came from the audit is basically all of the fixtures need to be replaced. They were all at the wrong heights, wrong dimensions, all of that. So the building itself, nothing will have to change with the building itself. There will be some things that the only issue, there was some accessibility issue getting to it in terms of the accessible routes. There's a lip, you know,
Yeah.
that's this big from the asphalt to the concrete pad, but I don't think anything would have to change with the building. So the thought was, well, if we're doing it, we're not gonna improve it and then not make it meet the standards, you know, the inside of it. So that's why we were asking for the 40, so at least then, even if you might not be in a wheelchair, but you might have other issues, and if we're gonna make changes to it, we wanna make it compliant inside, and it may help make it more accessible for others, you know, if they have other kinds of, they might have walkers, they might have other things, crutches, anything, or even blind or any other kind of thing. So that was the thought process behind it. We do know that the doors on both of those are in really tough shape, including frame, like the whole thing. So that's why we really wanted to get that done, and we figured while we were doing it, we would make sure that the whole interior would be to code.
And you have a placeholder of $1 million in 2 years from now. Is that just a placeholder, or is that is that an estimate of any kind, or how real is that?
I think I'm not sure how real it is. I mean, looking at.
Is that from the consultant? Is that from?
I actually reached back out to him again today. I'm like, do you remember how we got that? No, like, I'm not sure.
Okay.
But I know just based on some of the other pricing that we've gotten, I know we'll probably talk about, but McGuan, like to do that entire parking lot, we had gotten a quote of $250,000, and that was just paving. So when you look at everything else entailed there, it may be more. Again, that's really, I would say it's probably more of a placeholder, but it's probably, it may or may not be
Okay.
close.
I
I don't know how else to say. To be honest, I don't know.
I have a question about the cherry lawn study.
Yep.
Are there guidelines or like a framework that are going to be given? Like, is everything fair game? Like, you could get rid of the baseball field if that's the best thing, or are there things that the consultants have to work within? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
are there?
I mean, what we were talking to them about was with the usage that's there, or the different amenities that are there, how would you,
Okay.
how do you fix it? Because we do hear from, literally everybody needs field space, everybody's short on field space. So rather than removing something from there,
Gotcha.
but it's not about putting anything else in.
Gotcha.
So it's just, these are the types of
It's not a
activities.
master parks plan, right?
Sort of for that park, this is how it's utilized. How do we kind of fix it and make it compliant and safer for everybody?
Okay.
Back to the ADA,
Yeah.
no one debates the value of making your town more ADA compliant. My understanding is that we're not being forced to do anything. We're trying to get ahead of certain, we're trying to just stay ahead of this and kind of put our best foot forward. Have we contemplated an overall strategy with respect to ADA such that if we're going to take Cherry Lawn and make it ADA compliant, does that mean we're going to take every one of our parks and make them ADA compliant, or is this going to be the ADA compliant park? And I don't know, maybe I've missed something, but I haven't seen kind of a strategy for the town where it's been determined that we're going to make Cherry Lawn ADA compliant, therefore we have to spend the 75, then the 150, then the million plus or minus.
but we're not going to be replicating that in other parks, or are we? And so it's hard to evaluate this specific ADA project, which again benefits our community, in the absence of a comprehensive, thought piece on what we're doing as a town.
So what I can say, I'm not going to speak for the complete town, but I'll speak for, I guess, Parks and Rec. So when you make changes, you must make them compliant.
When you say changes.
If you're going to go in and change something at a facility, you need to make it compliant. So if we're gonna pave a parking lot, we should be making it now compliant, right? We need to fix everything and bring it to the proper standard.
Okay.
So, that being said, we will need to do, that's why when you look, the main ones that we've gotten any feedback from, it's Cherry Lawn, McGuan, that's why you see what was going on. And when I sat with the town administrator, we were sitting there going, there are so many pieces when you start looking at the findings. And one thing leads to another. The parking, and again, just going back to McGuan, this is where that one really clicked, just like Cherry Lawn. To get to all of the different amenities, you need to look at the whole. McGuan, I went there. Well, a lot of the sidewalks are not correct. The parking certainly is not correct, and it's on a slope. And then you're supposed to be the closest, I think it's like the closest accessible route. So right now, we have people, the fields are here, the parking's here, you're asking people to cross the roadway. It's on a slant, which is not accessible. So I was like, well, I can't pave this because we have to figure out how to address that to make handicap parking at the proper grade.
So
right?
you're proposing patching versus paving.
So that's why
Potholes
I'm
and
looking
cracks
to, and not just, for there, it's not simply like filling holes, because the pothole, if you went and looked, because I had sent pictures along with the budget, like, it's really bad, we've gotten complaints. So what we're looking to do there is actually cut out sections that are like the worst sections, and then pave it, so it'll be big, like rectangles, right? So to hold us over until we get to the full plan, because I mean, when I was reading through that report, that went to the sidewalks, the decking on that patio area is not at the right slope. I mean, one thing tied into the next, and I was like, I don't know how you even do this without looking at it holistically. So that's why we decided we'd be best of doing 1 year, creating a plan, getting the design, the documents, looking at the locations as a whole, and then moving to construction in the following year. And we kind of just worked them out. That's why we did like Holohan and Town Hall, those were kind of looked at simultaneously. That was another section that we would do. So if that answers, so we're looking at each one of those kind of as a whole, and we're looking to do the same thing at each location. Some are more significant than others. We didn't hear back yet anything on Baker. I think they were still doing something, but that one hopefully is not too much, but we do know there needs to be access made to the field and some other things. So, but we would kind of take the same idea. And again, we can spread that out over the next, I think we were looking at 10 to 12 years or something like that.
But I think those are things that you need to do at a specific location. But I think if you think about it more holistically, and maybe this is what you're getting to as a portfolio approach, right? We have, I think, an extremely attractive, let's just say ADA accessible walkway that's probably half-mile long at Highland Farms, right? I think it would be virtually impossible to make an ADA accessible walkway at Woodland Park.
Right, yes. I mean.
So I don't know that we can make, I don't think the plan is to make every.
No, exactly. So you have to look at where you can do it. Would it be nice to be able to make some trails in there, maybe to a certain extent? Because they will say that, because you need a certain amount of trail or walkway, pathways. But yes, we would not, there are certain things where it's not possible, right? In Stony Brook Park, you're not going to be able to make those trails or anything accessible. So we're not looking to make every possible piece, but where we do something, we need to make it as compliant as possible.
I think, I remember we paid for the Placer AI software last year. Does that help us offset the cost of the circulation and accessible routes plan at all at Cherry Lawn?
No, we've been working with them. I did ask them too for the consultant, are there certain things that might help? They didn't really have any additional information. Most of what they would do is at the counts and things on site anyway. But we've been working with that. I don't know whether or not that would be extended.
My understanding is that's not being extended. The Placer I contacted is that correct?
That's my understanding,
Yeah.
but I don't.
Yeah.
So we did it
It's not from my department.
Canceling?
The utility, well, I think our first selectman can probably address it maybe at some point when we get to the general government budget, but utility didn't kind of match what kind of our
What we
needs
thought
were.
it would.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any other questions?
The only thing I think you're hinting at, that if we're gonna spend $40,000 to make the bathhouse ADA compliant, what we would really not wanna do is find out in 2 years that it needs to be moved because of the overall ADA. And I know it's 40,000 versus $1 million and change, and it's not the end of the world, but to the degree that can be avoided.
I don't think, again, the plan is not to move any of the structures, the tennis
That's up on a
courts, or
little bit
any
of a
of
hill, too. It's a
that.
little hard to get to.
But depending on where you come in from, and maybe we change our access, so if you're coming in kind of by the gardens on that roadway, that's pretty flat, and then you can just get in. So it's all about that. We're not looking to change where the pickleball courts are, or the tennis courts, or the garden, any of that, or any of the structures. It's just the route to get there.
Okay.
So, did I understand it correctly, that we are looking at all of the things it would take to make Cherry Lawn or McGuan or whatever compliant, and then choosing which ones we want to do? I mean, it seems like there's a lot of room here for, I don't know, subjective decision-making, and to do all of these, sometimes it's impossible. It could be $100 million to get it all set up. Like, we're not doing that. So how do we prioritize these and get our arms around how much we're diving into with just these few things sprinkled over a few years?
That's what I was kind of getting to, like, what's the focus, like, how are the decisions going to be made? This could be a very big multi-year capital project.
Yeah.
And so what's the focus, what's the community buy-in process look like? It's a big building project.
Seems like the
So-
portfolio approach is the right one. Like, if we really look at everything and then decide to prioritize, a walking path, we have it at Highland Farm, and, maybe we upgrade one other something somewhere, but, to do everything everywhere, it seems like a huge mistake to dive in.
Yeah, that's why I think there
Yes.
needs to be like an overall policy decision made up front, as in, do we want to make every single tennis court in every park be accessible, to everyone? Like, for example, I think in Cherry Lawn, like, you need to create a pretty long walkway to be able to get all the way down to those new tennis courts, right?
Depends how the
Like, there
parking,
are-
again, it depends
to-
how the parking gets
Yeah.
situated,
To
right?
do,
So,
to do a walkway at Stony Brook or at
right, you wouldn't.
Woodland Park, so I think that, I feel like the portfolio approach, like,
To
is there a certain
provide
amount of everything that we
accessibility
want to
at Weed to the
have?
tennis court seems to it's a lot less distance from available parking to available tennis court than it is from at least current parking at Cherry Lawn to nearest tennis court, right? That's your point.
Yes.
Yes.
So, all right, if we take the portfolio of tennis courts, do we make them all ADA accessible, or do we want to say the ones that Weed are, or however, yes, so that, I guess, kind of what you're talking about, what Jenny's talking, how's that decision going to be made? And
Has the Parks and Rec Commission talked about that? Like, is there anyone out, like, what's been the discussion of, we're going to look at this, we're going to say, on average, according to the report, 5% of every park needs to be, or as long as you have are you looking at every park or every asset in a silo, or are you looking at as they relate to each other? If we have it over here, then maybe we don't need it over there.
Well, I think, one is if you're doing something or altering it or building it. So say like I'll use the playground as an example, right? So.
Which playground?
So somebody had made a comment when we were looking at Baker. Do we really need to make that accessible because the one at McGuan is accessible, or the one at Cherry? Yes, because you are now altering it. So when you alter it, you now need to.
If you modify it.
You're modifying it, so you need to make it up to code. So if at any of these locations we're doing any kind of change like that, we should be bringing it up to code.
So that's the trigger. If we make a change.
But bringing what up to code? Just like, for example, at Cherry Lawn, if you modify the parking lot, does the parking lot need to be up to code? Or is it if you modify the parking lot, then every single possible activity on that property has to be accessible within minimum distance to the, like, I think that's what I'm trying to understand is what exactly do you need to bring up to, and I also differentiate between code compliant and then sort of a best practice. What does Darien want to follow? Because something may not be required by law, but it may be something that we value and we want to do.
Right.
But,
and I think I would defer that question to the ADA, consultant or whatever. We could follow up with them and our ADA coordinator to really wrap around what the approach is. I mean, to me, I think best practices, if we have a park, we should be making it every park to the best of our ability accessible, right? Everything in there. It's not
within the confines.
Yeah, but to the best of our ability is a very nebulous concept.
Right.
Because our ability has a $15 billion grand list. So I think there needs to be, these are the things that we value the most, maybe having like access to like 2 different tennis court locations, 3 different sort of walkway locations, maybe not every, I just think that's like an important policy decision, just like, you all make the active policy decision every year to say, these are the only 2 locations we're going to sort of require permits to in terms of parking. We say we're not going to do that at Cherry Lawn. All of those like policy type decisions that inherently like the commission makes every year dictate sort of operationally how our residents can use it, and then implicitly like what the costs are that we incur to run it. So
right. And I'm just saying, I mean, I am not an ADA expert, nor am I a lawyer trained in ADA law, so that's why I would say I think we need to then reach out to that group.
I think it's part of the charge of the consultant to say, as they look at, because right now they're just looking at Cherry Lawn, right?
As of now, that would be the one that we would be looking at.
Right.
But I would like say McGuan is more of a.
do you want to come up?
Honestly, I think it's a mistake to spend a single dollar until we have clear process around how we're gonna make these decisions, because I don't wanna hear next year that we're gonna do this project because we approved the other one last year and they're the same essentially, and then we're on a slippery slope where we can't say no, and it just snowballs. We have to get this ironed out now. I wanna know soup to nuts, every park, do we have a plan? How much is it gonna cost? How do we prioritize it? And then start drafting that plan over a certain number of years.
Because if the goal, if what I'm hearing is this could really go the way of every town asset has to be optimized for ADA. Because we're looking at it one at a time. Whereas I would hate to hire a consultant to come in and look at Houlihan after we've done McGuan and Cherry Lawn and have them go down the road of, we have to optimize here and come back and say, well, we spent money to do that, but we decided that we don't need to do that. We don't, if we have enough ADA here and enough ADA there, then.
We didn't need to do.
We didn't need it. So that's it's really more of a, the consultant needs to understand from someone, I assume at the Board of Selectmen and the Parks and Rec Commission together, on how much is going to be done within per park and then holistically, because they're two different ways of looking at it. I'm in favor of improvements. I'm afraid of project creep. I'm afraid of this thing going from a $4 million 6-year plan to a $10 million, or more plan that,
But even if it is 6 million or 10 million or 8 million, that might be fine as long as we understand that it's designed to be that, rather than, as Taylor, we've got 2 projects this year, and then we've got 3 projects next year, and we've got 5 projects the year after that, and there's never been a document that says this is what we're trying to achieve. What is the end game? What's the end goal from an ADA perspective? And how does this project and this expenditure contribute to that end game?
strategy.
But without that strategy, it's hard to evaluate. We take it at its face value, the value of doing the 40,000 bathhouse and the $75,000 study. No one's arguing with that, but it's hard to, in a vacuum, without any context around it, for where we're trying to go as a town, to get comfortable with authorizing the money. It just,
Because I think once you, like if Cherry Lawn, I'm just going to make up a number here, 30 acres, whatever you guys decide from a policy perspective, is this is the approach we want to take at Cherry Lawn in terms of how we're going to manage stuff, how we're going to make stuff accessible. We have about 300 acres of total open space. I know it's not all that dedicated parkland, but it's, I think people think it like identifies as open space and park space. So if we're going to do something to 30 acres of it, we're probably going to end up having to do it to others. A little bit of what's happened with the school. Some of the choices that the Board of Ed has made in terms of what they wanted to do or add on or kind of modify to one school, we effectively ended up kind of owning that and then having to do it to every other school. And it was valuable, but I don't think when we made, or when the decision was made to kind of do it at one, we necessarily incorporated, hey, this is what it means when you roll it out to the other 6 or 7.
and it's not just it's not just a Parks and Rec, right? And that's where we're here this evening on it, but it's really more of a townwide thing.
I think there's, if I can add a few things, there's a whole lot going on here, and I think we're kind of conflating a number of issues. I'm sure you've all seen the very extensive report that came from the consultants, which goes through in very great detail, line by line, at every park, every single thing that is not just right. And the town has been charged with, over a period of time, to address this. In terms of Cherry Lawn, we had already been having conversations about the circulation challenges at Cherry Lawn. Parking can be challenging. We have people parking up and under trees. There are no sidewalks. You have mothers, nannies with children in strollers fighting for road space with passing cars. We already knew Cherry Lawn has circulation issues, and it is one of our most popular parks. So I'd say the first thing is the commission is most focused on addressing our most used parks in terms of what should the priority be. So I think it's safe to say that Cherry Lawn we had already put money in the budget for a circulation study. That wasn't approved. Now we have the overlay. Now, had we gone ahead with that, ADA compliance would have been a part of that planning anyway. But now, because of the timing, we have the consultant's report, which further identifies things beyond the circulation. In fact, the fact that the bathrooms, that the toilets handles are on the wrong side. Is that something any of us would have necessarily known? No, but it turns out the toilet handles are on the wrong side. So there are a number of things that need to be corrected. So there are certain things that the town really has an obligation to correct, to make them right. You brought up things like tennis courts. You don't necessarily have to make every tennis court accessible, but you must have some in the inventory. But there, but there are other obligations. For instance, I know New Canaan got hooked on this, but if you have every baseball field, there must be an accessible pathway to that baseball field. So that's not really where we can kind of pick and choose, oh, we'll make this one accessible but not that one, because that's not the idea of inclusivity. So if a child is playing a baseball game, and their grandparent wants to come watch the game, right, we don't have an accessible way for them to do that. And New Canaan settled with the Department of Justice to remedy things. So things like that, we really do have to start looking at all of our parks. As Jen points out, as we do maintenance, we need to fix it right. And sometimes it's the slope, it's the pitch, it's a lot of very nuanced items. So we really have to put all of these pieces together, but really where the focus probably is best off, and the plan that Jen has put together is that it's going to take multiple years for them to start looking at, each of the parks and where we go, but we feel that the priority should be on our biggest, most used park. So again, you have Cherry Lawn, you have McGuan, where the parking lot is in terrible condition anyway, but we're not going to ask you for money to pave it until we can have the studies done, because that's a really challenging parking lot, because you think about the slopes and whatever, so that's going to take a little bit more work. But I think the focus is addressing things that just really need to be, just need to be fixed, but then also our most used parks, and making sure that we're providing peoples of all abilities to get to the resources, so that people can get down to the gazebo or the pond at Cherry Lawn. Yeah, that's a long run, but those are the things we really have to look at, because the idea is people need to be able to get to the different
Yeah, but that's
amenities
a policy
safely.
decision that you're talking about. If the decision that the Parks and Rec Commission is making is that every asset sort of at all of our properties needs to have equal sort of access, like we don't make that decision, but I do think if that was a policy decision, then that has like
That's
cost
the law.
implications, because we've got 300 acres.
Well, I think what we'd like to see is, what are we obliged to do? Okay, and it sounds like you know what that is, but I don't know that we know what that is. What are we obliged to do? And then beyond that, what is our policy to do? And if we can see a document that suggests what are we obliged to do, what is our policy to do, then we can evaluate a project. This is all obligatory. This is easy. I mean, it's just get the cost right, but we have to do it.
Okay.
If this is a policy matter, that's maybe a little bit more worthy of discussion. And then if it's out of policy, but without that kind of guiding document, we're evaluating these projects in a vacuum.
Okay, and John, I know you had charged Jen Chernesky with developing the community-wide approach to this.
It's a good
That was
question.
really
I
staff-driven.
wouldn't overthink this right now, not that you are, but I'd make this point, which is part of the reason for putting this study in place is that it protects the town from ADA-related liability while we sort all of this out. And we've got about 12 years to get this done, so it's a very long time. In terms of a specific plan about how you're going to go in and tackle these things, because the time period is so long, there's a lot of work that's going to be done, for example, on our park facilities, that it means we don't have to actually fix these things, because we're changing the building and making a lot of modifications, and we're just going to layer in the ADA compliance-related aspects to this and correct it all at once. And so in terms of trying to price it or have a particular holistic plan that lays it all out like that, it kind of depends on whether we're going to come in and make a lot of changes, right? Or you've got a building like this building where we're not going to make a lot of changes to this building, and we got to be thoughtful about, okay, how can we sequence the ADA required changes in a thoughtful and cost-effective way? I don't have a clear answer to that. I do know that when we get to it, we have a roadmap that this consultant came up with where they clearly identified where all the deficiencies were, and then we need to make a judgment about how to sequence that in the most cost-effective way for each asset that we're not rebuilding.
Yeah, and I think when these projects ultimately come to us, I think what you're hearing is like this board's going to want to hear like, hey, this is sort of the playbook that we've developed from what the consultant study is, and this is, like our approach, let's just say across all 300 acre, or all of our facilities.
Yeah, I don't want this to be, there to be an implication that somehow there's a lot of judgment or guessing or policies that we can come up with where there's just a wide range of things that we can do. No, the ADA is pretty clear in terms of what you got to do when you renovate a facility, how many of the swing sets or other assets in a park have to be accessible, right? There's a certain number or a certain percentage of all that's laid out. There's plenty of case law about how you're supposed to do that. So it's not a policy or judgment that we're making. When we come to you and say we are fixing town hall or we're going to work on these park properties, it's based on professional advice from the study that was initiated by Westcog that'll be supplemented when we need additional information to make that and to do it right. And so when we come to you, we're going to say, this is what the professionals are telling us to do. There's not a policy or judgment that we're going to take that is not informed by an ADA professional.
The example I would use is, I think it's like probably 2 years ago that we built tennis courts right up in the, significantly rehabilitated tennis courts up in Cherry Lawn, right? The lower
Or
ones.
we resurfaced them. We
Yeah.
didn't really change them.
But we did do a lot of work then, and we didn't do anything to make those more ADA accessible, right? So are we saying,
It's not that the courts aren't,
I know,
except
but-
the courts are flat, it's that there's no accessible access to.
so I know, that's what I'm saying, but when we invested in those courts, we didn't do anything addition, but
There was a lot of stuff that wasn't done. I mean, a big finding in this report was all the deficiencies just at Weed Beach. There's a ton of stuff that was in fairly new facilities that was not done right, or not done in an ADA compliant manner. And if we had had a report like this in place, or we had access to consultants like that, we would not have built that to those standards, or we would not have allowed that contractor to come in and deliver that product without that being done. It's part of the reasons I've said that all building committees going forward, there should be somebody on the building committee tagged with making sure they ask those questions during the project. Are we in compliance? Did you guys check this? Are we sure that the delivered product is going to be compliant and meet all the requirements of that ADA report? So going forward, and that's why I'm kind of glad we have this report now, it's going to help us remember through every one of these projects, not just parks, that we're not going to build stuff and not allow a contractor to build something that comes out the other side that's not ADA compliant. We're not going to have this problem again.
Yeah, well, in fact, the playground at Cherry Lawn, we have the certification from the installer that it's a full page of this playground complies with blah, 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 and it specifically cites the ADA requirements stating that it was in compliance. So we relied on that. The consultants come in, they do their, and the pitch is off by half a degree or this or that or the other thing. So we certainly were, top of mind that we needed to make a playground compliant, relied on our contractor who certified it is. So now we're going back to them and saying, okay, but
Do we have any recourse?
So at a Board of Selectmen meeting, I think you said you had just received a report. This is back in February. You'd received a report from the vendor or a response from the vendor, but you hadn't had time to go through it yet.
So
what did they say?
I have a
on
very,
this specific
I
issue?
don't have the official, I'm waiting for their official response. I do have a general email. Basically what I did was I sent them the findings from the audit. There are a few things, there was something that they recognized and said, yes, this needs to be fixed. And when I had my conversation with the contractor, he was like, we'll fix what needs to be fixed. They have their compliance officer looking at a few things, so they're looking at it from a little bit of a different standpoint, right? So they're saying the access point, the slope, well, it depends where you're coming from. If you're looking at it straight on, it might be off. Well, you could also approach it from another angle, so we should look at it there. So I think they are willing to, correct what needs to be corrected. I think they're
perhaps challenging some of the findings.
Yeah, I was going to say push back, but, so they're challenging it a little bit as to how, is that actually correct, or is there some nuance to it, or if you come in from another angle, does it then meet the
So in the
requirements?
bathhouse project, will we have the ability to withhold payment until it's ADA compliant from our perspective, not
Which
from the
bathhouse?
contractor's perspective?
Which bathhouse are you talking about, Dan?
He's saying
Cherry
Cherry
Lawn.
Lawn, if
Oh,
we
at
do
Cherry,
that.
okay.
Yeah, so if we're spending $40,000, it's ADA compliant, and then according to our consultant, it's not. And so do we have the ability to withhold payment from the contractor that's going to do the bathhouse ADA compliant project and say, we're not paying you until
It's correct.
until we sign off that it's ADA compliant, not that you've told us that it's ADA compliant.
So one of the things that I had mentioned, a suggestion I had made was that really, for a lot of these projects, we should almost have somebody like on retainer that is our ADA person, because it's very nuanced. There's very specific things, and they should go through and check and make sure everything is correct. For just that reason, before we do the final sign off and we accept it, that's my opinion, my suggestion is that we should have somebody that does that for all these types of projects, so that you're not taking the contractor's
Right.
word for it. I mean, could I go out there with a level and try to, I don't know, again, that's not my area of expertise.
We have access to the same
So-
consultant who did this report to help us with stuff like that.
Okay.
Well, it sounds like a lot of the stuff we're talking about are questions that become more relevant as you put forward whatever that project may be, right?
Right.
Yep.
And
So the only, I think, ADA-related capital that's being proposed is the 40 for the bathhouse
And the 70.
and the 50 for, and the 40 for the bathhouse and the 75 for the study.
Consultant.
Right,
For the plan.
right.
so it sounds like you'll do the study before you do the bathhouse, right?
No, because the bathroom is really just very simple. I mean, it just says that the toilet's out of space, it kind of tells you where you need to place the different fixtures. So the fixtures are all wrong. So it's redoing all that. So you don't need because the building is not going to move, so it won't change
You're just
with the
replacing the
access
toilets
routes.
and the fixtures.
You're
and the
replacing
sinks
the insides, the guts inside, and the doors.
And this price includes access?
No, not the 40 does not include the access routes.
we're signing
It's-
up for
It's
more.
the internal, the inside of the.
So does it include, so
It's just the,
by access from the roadway to the front door,
no.
that's not in the 40?
Correct.
That's going to
So
be
maybe
corrected
wrong.
with this
That
other
will be
one.
corrected with the rest of it, but if we're going to do anything to the building, to the inside of the building, you want to make it to code.
So that's means, so I think that's what we're all talking, like the attachment. Once you touch the inside, I think what you're saying is that then immediately the parking spot that touches that needs to be changed, and the
No.
parking spot that touches that.
No,
So-
what I'm saying is if we were going to go in and spruce up the bathrooms, then
Just because they need to be
we're
spruced.
now altering it, so we should then be making that inside meet the ADA requirements.
But it doesn't trigger you to do anything that then touches the outside.
No, because we're not changing the
But so-
outside.
And by the way,
Just
all
so-
that stuff's already been identified,
but
right?
fast forward-
We know
We know
that
it.
there's.
We have
know
Fast
that.
forward, we spent $40,000 on the bathhouse, it's still not ADA accessible because we haven't fixed the outside.
Right.
Yeah, there's no access.
And that's waiting for a study so we
No,
spent
no,
40.
no, that's, but we know that. We know that the roadway or the pathway to get to that is not compliant yet. It's going to be compliant. But this gets to my staging point earlier, right? This bathroom needed to be renovated anyway. Terrific, we have this ADA study that points out the things that need to be ADA compliant. So all that's going to be built into a bathroom that was going to be renovated anyway. Now, next on the list is actually getting to the bathroom. Well, we know that's from the study, we know that. But we're going to build that into some subsequent work so that it can be done efficiently.
It just
Where it
doesn't-
gets inefficient is to say, we're going to pick this one particular building and we're going to make it soup to nuts from A to Z, completely compliant, the access, the lighting, everything up to it. And that's an inefficient way to do this. We're just doing this one building first, and then we're going to do this next part, and this next part, and next part. It's simpler and better.
So
I
we've
think
talked a lot about this, but it just seems like you're building a building or you're modifying a building to make it ADA compliant, but it's actually not. Because once you get to the building, it's fine, but you still can't get to the building.
We're going to fix that. It's on our
Yeah,
list.
But then we're
why
committing
would
to it later. and
why
not-
wouldn't you fix it
We're under-
first or in
we're-
conjunction?
We're under no requirement to get all of this fixed immediately,
So why do the 40,000 now?
because
think
they're
in the-
renovating the bathroom
I
now.
think in the case
why?
of this bathroom, if it was a bathroom that only had 5 steps up to get to it, and you could say reasonably, most people with challenges can't get up to it, that might be one thing. But this bathroom, it's relatively flat, and most people, you can get,
If you have
that's a bad
if you
statement.
have a cane, you can get into it.
If you have a cane, you can get into
If you're
it.
in a,
If you're on a walker, you can still get, you know what, I'm thinking of my mother when she was 92 years old. Could she have gotten into that physical bathroom? Yes. Would she have really needed the toilet? Was it the right height and the sink with it? Yes, she would have. So we're addressing that part, so that people who can physically get in there but may need assistance,
okay.
now at least have a toilet
So
that's
I
at
also-
the right height. I had an employee once, this is just a story. We moved into a new building in my office. I had an employee who had physical challenges. She could walk and get around. She needed a cane. But we moved into this new building. She came to me and she said, Lori, the toilet is too low. And the facility, no, it's not. So we went in there and measured, and sure enough, the toilet was too low. So you have an employee who's coming to you, having to come to their boss to say, I can't get up and off the toilet. That's the kind of thing you're trying to avoid. If you can make it so it's comfortable for somebody in the meanwhile, while we do the bigger study, I don't know why we wouldn't.
So it's going to make it
Do
better
that.
for those that can get to it.
Yes, which I would say,
And then
given
some-
the
and then we
positioning
will-
of the cherry lawn bathroom, and that it's relatively on ground level, I would vote to go ahead, but
I'm just
So
worried
I-
that, to your point, location, if it's in the wrong place, or it's gonna cause us to have to spend a lot more money to make it accessible down the road, we say, well, we should, because we already spent the money on the bathhouse, that's what I don't wanna get into, is like, we're
Right, and I
buying into a
understand
much
that.
bigger investment.
But we
By
wouldn't
agreeing
need to,
to more.
in this location, you would not, there's no need to move that building.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm at Cherry Lawn every day, sometimes twice a day. The bathroom definitely could use redoing.
some love.
On the inside,
Yes.
on the
Right.
inside. And the fact that I agree that it might not be technically ADA accessible per the report, it's pretty, you can walk into it, you could probably roll into it, it's
Right.
not
It's just the
gonna check a
lip
box, and there's a lip. So I brought it up just because I wanted to make sure what kind of Jim was getting at, is like, if we're touching this, are we touching everything and triggering something without knowing? So, I know those doors don't close very well. I know, I can't attest to the size, the height, but I do know that it needs some
Yeah.
improvement.
or things like the handle, I never would have thought of that. And then what the consultant said is, you have to reach, if you're in a wheelchair, you have to reach across the toilet to flush, which you could get splashed. I mean, it's something like that, who would think?
I just didn't want to
Yeah.
trigger, if we were going to spend the money to do a much bigger project there, I don't want to run the risk of duplicating.
Just to be clear, the ADA compliance report triggered all these things. So to Dan's point, right, even if you renovate this bathroom, the pathway to get there is not fully compliant. It's been triggered. We know that because the consultant report highlighted that. So that's a known ADA deficiency. Our task is twofold. One is we're going to spend some money to improve ADA compliance. We need to make sure that we're not spending money that's going to be thrown away later because something had to be torn down. We can assure you this building's not going to be torn down. So we're not spending money that's going to be wasted, right? The second task we have here is how do we sequence this in a way that it makes sense, and is spending the money in the most efficient way possible? Those are the two objectives we had, and the plans that they've come up with for Parks and Rec meet those two objectives. By the way, we're going to do that for all of these town assets, and we can talk about that at length as to how we're going to get that done, but that's a consistent theme for all of these investments.
Okay. Okay, any other questions on Parks and Rec?
Just the last part, the Tilly Pond dredging is underway.
Yes, it is.
And there, at the same time, I think you also got money for the Cherry Lawn Pond dredging, which is going to follow into next fiscal year,
It
correct?
will, the dredging for that, because we do not have the permit yet,
Right.
the dredge, and then it got to the point where Cherry Lawn will be way too busy to be doing this kind of work to do it safely.
Was there a reason why the permit didn't come at the same time as Tilly Pond? Like this?
They separated the process.
The EPC.
The EPC separated the process, so they were not done together. So we're a month ahead on Tilly than on
And so you're
on Cherry
waiting
Lawn.
for the timing?
So
for-
fall,
okay.
we will do the cherry lawn dredging in the fall, so October, November, as soon as we kind of quiet down there, we'll get that one done. Tilly is underway. It'll take about 8 weeks. Then the dredging material, the dredging equipment and everything will come out. The tubes that are there that hold the sediment will remain on site for probably a couple of months as they dewater. And then once it's dry enough, they will be removed off-site, the material. So hopefully June, July, that stuff will be coming out, but we're we're excited. They were in there the next day as soon as we got the permit,
Okay.
getting everything set, so that's
And
moving
you're
along.
expected to get the permit for Cherry Lawn Way?
Hopefully on April 8th, I think 8th is the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, they split the timing of the two procedures by over a month.
Okay.
Just for-
And then you get messed
Because
up
they
with
did.
the fall programming?
Right.
Okay. Well, it's 9, so I think
Yes, sir.
if there's no other questions on Parks and Rec, thank you, everybody, very much. Appreciate all the explanation here, and keep us posted as you move along with this. Okay, so next up is police, and I see Chief and Captain are here. Do you guys want to come up? And Sharon. Rob, do you
Good
want to
evening
start?
all, and if I may, I'd like to start. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your support, and most of all, thank you for your communication over the last fiscal year. Jerry Marin, Chief of Police, Andrew Mastriani, Captain of the Administrative Services Bureau, and Sharon Lee are not even new anymore, but our Facilities Director. So very thankful for their time tonight, and I'd just like to point out that I'm here as a resource to support them. These are your MVPs with the topics tonight. They spent a lot of time. They take this seriously, and we're more than happy to answer any questions they have. So thank you once again.
Well, first of all, I'm stunned that Parks and Rec is the most exciting department of the night. I kind of thought it was going to be police, but
Oh, by the way, our building is fully in compliance.
We'll try to be quicker on this so that we don't get parking tickets
that
outside.
would be over under with this young lady on Parks and Rec. Police delivered a solid budget for the next coming year. Let me just go through some numbers. Let me just say overall, a lot of this is salary increases and a lot of this is maintenance. This is straight on just the operating budget. Then we'll talk about capital after that. And Sharon, thanks for showing up because I know it's going to sit in your bucket for this. But overall, $262,000 increase. Sorry if you guys are looking, about 2.6%. I just want to point out a couple of the line items on here. On the police communications, you'll see a $101,000 increase, which is 12%. 90,000 of that is either the new contract with civil dispatch or a mid-diff, they call it, the difference in rates on that. So most of that is there. Under police operations, you'll see a $48,000 increase, which is about 10%. 35,000 of that is maintenance for the building or contracts for the building. So you'll see, Josh, if you just blow that out a little bit for us on police station operations, you'll see a $16,000 increase for facility repair and maintenance, and also a $19,000 increase for the equipment maintenance contract. Roughly 35 of the 48. The other 9,000 is an increase in salary. And what else did I want to comment here? Back up to the top on police records is a $35,000 increase, which is 5.5%. Captain, is that the 7 cameras that we're putting in, and also the Axion contracted software that we're redoing there? I think that's what the driving factors are in those 2 ones.
The software maintenance and support account, that one right there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's driven up largely in part of the addition of several flock cameras we're looking to add to our contract. And I'm sure the chief could attest to this, but we find that these flock cameras have proven to be extremely valuable for officers, patrol division, as well as our detective bureau with their investigative efforts. And we're looking to add some more cameras. So that's the increase with the flock contract.
Super. I didn't have anything else. The only other large increase from a dollar standpoint, as you guys look, is the patrol, and that's less than 1%.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing I would point out is within the salary set aside, since the PD union contract negotiations are about to begin, some of those salaries have made their way into the contingency for salary, which would be then spread out across some of these line items as well.
Super.
But back to what you were discussing with the full-time salaries, we have 3 unions essentially in our PD. So we got our dispatchers, which are all getting increases, as well as the town hall union, so that's driving that up.
And just from a number standpoint, because I think we kind of talk about this every year, we try to staff to 53. I think currently, guys, we're at 50. Does that sound right? Or
I'm pleased to announce on Thursday, we're swearing in 3 new officers, and we will be at 53.
Wow.
Cool.
And I think we have one coming out of the academy, like next month.
Yes,
So-
one come out of the academy. And we do have one who's still on injury and another officer on FMLA. So overall picture, patrol is down about 6 officers, if we're going to include the vacancies and those in the academy or out on some sort of leave.
Yeah, I think this might be my 10th year doing the police budget. I don't think we've ever actually been at that number. But
Thursday,
it's just hopefully Thursday it's
stays that way.
And let's see how long we can.
We got to
stay
get
there.
them through training. That's going to take a little time before we can plug them in. to patrol.
I guess my question is, in that same line, in station ops, we've got a maintenance budget of 40% and equipment maintenance contract budget up 25%, and is that too low for increases in those budgets, given the building? And I heard your report at the Board of Selectmen meeting, and, well, you know, and I know we don't want to budget overages if we don't have to, but, and maybe you talk about this when you get to capital, but we've seen it's kind of a perpetual every other, whatever frequency it is, issues with the building, and they pop up in the expense line, they pop up in the capital line. So I know you've been here, what, a year now, and you've got your arms around the building.
I do.
So I guess I would ask if you're comfortable with those expense lines for those two line items.
And I'll also just add, since this building's been in existence, it's been the most comfortable year-round this past year than it ever has been. I will say that.
So we can cut those numbers in half.
I would say that I'm probably not comfortable, but this is a process of understanding what happened with the building, why it was built the way it was, and I still continue to learn things about the building, about the design, what was changed during the design. So I would say since November, when we turned this in, there have been more learnings and more information. So what we're trying to do is make data-driven decisions that I can, justify to you. So I would say I can justify what I've put in the budget, but are there more things that have come up? Certainly. And I don't think we're done. I mean, I'm trying to project out the 6 years, and so I have a lot of things in that 6-year budget to change, to adjust. We're trying to get the right vendors in place, trying to see exactly when we should be using DBW versus going out to a vendor, et cetera. So a lot of those things that are still a work in progress. I'm integrating some AI into my predictive so that my equipment, we have better maintenance of equipment. So for example, we have spring inspection of the air handlers and the boilers this year, which I don't think they've done in the past. So
that specific contract, there's a reason why it's been going up, because Sharon's been sifting through these contracts and making sure that we have adequate preventive maintenance in place, and I think for a while we haven't, and adding additional visits is just increasing some of these contracts, so that's just an example.
Exactly.
That's my one question. It seems like for a very long time, this building, we've been reactive. And it's a lot of the maintenance expense, and a lot of them continue to come up to us throughout the year, which, never like unplanned expenses, but it changes things. It sounds like we're starting to move to the sort of predictive and doing scheduled routine maintenance to prevent the sort of Sunday disaster.
That's right. That's exactly right. If I can get to fully predictive, that's
that's obviously one of the objectives. It is a work in progress. So, we found something just last week that, I don't think anyone knew was even there. That's been broken for probably a long time.
I heard we started the conversation about a rebuild versus continually fixing things. Is that an ongoing conversation, or is it done?
Currently, there's still research being done, so we can't really speak too much on that right now without having all the facts in place, but we are looking into that actively, yes.
So I think
it's a
the
big
Board of Selectmen had asked you guys to come back to them with a report, right? Or an analysis.
That's right.
And I think it was like a 6 to 8 week process.
Right.
So that would get us to I guess, mid-April. Is that still the timing, or is it?
Still pretty much the timing. I have spoken to finance about giving them a draft sometime next week to show where how far we are. There was some help needed that I needed. They've given me some of those numbers back from finance now. I'm going to integrate those. We've been doing some tours of other police stations. So it's a work in progress, and hopefully develop a real compelling picture of the difference between trying to renovate this space and
Practically, it won't be available before we have to make a budget decision in this cycle.
Correct.
Right, because it'll be vetted, the Board of Selectmen has to vet it, et cetera, so.
But also, it's it's our work basically, and normally I would also integrate a consultant into this to further vet the process. So it's not possible for it to be done.
Right, exactly. Yep.
But what was the actual charge that you were sort of charged with doing? Not from a police
Board of
perspective,
Selectmen?
but what was the charge? To look at a rebuild? Is this necessary? Does renovations need to occur?
Reno versus rebuild.
To do a comparison of renovating the facility, so correcting the issues in the facility to the best of our ability, let's say, versus building a new facility. Which I'm sure the finance team is like, yes, no.
And that's just the black and white of it. That doesn't talk about whether it's going to be a turnkey operation, new location, a renovation while we
Where
look
that
through it, all
location
that
would
type of
be.
stuff. So the range is extremely
It's
wide.
Are there feasible locations?
I mean,
We're
that
thinking
hasn't
of
even.
Great Island, maybe. But no,
There's a lot of space there.
That came from the captain, not the chief.
Just kidding, for the record. No, I mean, that presents a challenge in and of itself.
Right.
Okay.
But there will be a
It's
site.
premature to get into that.
There's a lot.
Yep.
I mean, I think you guys know it, if you're kind of looking out the police station, right? On your left-hand side, how much room do you have? You have that small parking lot, and then you have the library. So are you gonna take space from the library? You're not going across the street, because this is cemetery,
Yes.
right? So the only potential way you may go is kind of right a little bit. Like I said, just looking
There's
out
not
straight
a lot
from the
of room.
police.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of options. So we may end up on Great Island, like you said.
How big is the property?
Not to get in the weeds with this specifically, although it would come across your desk at some point, but one of the problems we have is parking. One of the issues we have with it is, and we would definitely need to consider some type of underground operation or tiered or something if we were to remain on site. But I mean, we've only just been thinking about this for the last couple of weeks.
And the library has parking issues.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
there's
That's right.
Yep.
a shared solution
Exactly.
down the road.
Exactly.
How many acres is the property?
That's a good question.
That is a good question. I don't have that in front of me, but I'll get it for you.
Just curious.
So in terms of maintenance, I know there's, part of the solution, I think it was a year and a half ago, was, one full-time and then another sort of shared resource or resources with Tony and the town side.
Right.
How's that going from an overall process and going forward process?
We lost our shared resource, and my understanding is we're going to go out and look again and see if we can find someone.
Yeah, that's a new position, so I spoke to Tony, and his intentions are to get that refilled.
Right.
However, we're going to be meeting with him in the coming days, and I think we're going to set new requirements for that position to make sure it
It's kind of the right
benefits us
fit.
more effectively and efficiently too.
Because kind of the original one was like half with you guys and half with Tony's group, right?
Right.
Are you thinking, not to pry too much on this, but are you thinking a little bit more towards you guys, or what do you?
I think we're more looking at skill sets.
Skill set, yeah, 'cause that's an unusual skill set that we were looking for before.
It is, it's a
right?
difficult skill set
Yeah.
because you kind of need to be able to do several things,
Right.
right? And there are certain things that you really need to have a license for, electrical being one of them.
It's almost like a handyman plus plus.
Plus, yeah, exactly.
Right.
So that's, I think, based on our discussion with Tony, is one of the things we're going to talk about is how do we do that?
I think that was one of my questions, like, do you really need half of one, or do you need a quarter of two? Or do you need an eighth of four?
That's exactly.
Skill sets.
It's a good question. Based on the experience we had with the individual that was in the position, I think that we'll look at it a couple of different ways and then see what the options are going to be out there. I think they had difficulty in the first go around finding somebody, so we'll have to see what opportunities.
So you may move on to FTE. So we are sort of budgeting for the full 53 officers. There is the expectation with one kind of coming out of the academy and 3 more, I guess you're hiring and going in, that they'll sort of be at 53, right? And so, but there are, if you roll things back versus sort of 5 years ago, we now have 2 officers on SRO. So from a apples to apples perspective, kind of, while you have kind of gone up, one of those resources are with the school, right? And then with respect to, we're also budgeting for the full slate of dispatch, civilian dispatch, right?
Yeah, the current staffing with dispatch is actually pretty good. I believe we are up to 9 right now. We have 2 of which are currently in training. Their training typically is about 90 days. So we're at number 9, which is full strength for our dispatch. It's just, we might lose one of our dispatchers who is looking to pursue a career into law enforcement. So there is a possibility we may lose someone in the coming weeks, but as of right now, we're fully staffed with dispatch.
And the new separate union now, I think you mentioned 3 unions. Are there just 2? Have all the dispatchers transitioned to the?
They're on their own.
Yeah, they're on their own.
Yeah.
Yep, they have their own union.
I think this is the first time I remember, and you guys know better, that we've finally hit that 9 number. I kind of think about, was it? Yeah. We've never
hit 9.
We've never hit
But
that.
was it originally Captain Lavello that talked about the civil dispatch, or am I wrong on that?
I think that the whole dispatching program originated from Chief Lavello.
Yeah. Which gives you an idea how long it's taken. Like we went, if you guys remember, we went 3, and then we went 3 more, and then we approved 3 more, like I think 3 subsequent years.
Yeah.
And then we were stuck at 7 for a while. I was on the negotiations last year, that's why I was, and then it's good to finally get to 9, so finally, let's hope.
Let's hope
Yeah.
everyone passes their training and stays put for a bit, but again, that's
Don't know.
could always change. Right?
Yep.
I'll just
Captain, when
add,
you're below.
I was telling a community member today, it is unusual that we're going to hit that 53 mark come Thursday. We've never been at 53, period. And to be full staff in my career is very unusual for any amount of time. So to have full staffing in our sworn staff and then full staffing in dispatchers, that'll be the first time ever. And, we're hard on ourselves. We don't just take anybody. When we're looking at sworn staff, we're looking at dispatchers. We want the right people. We need the right people. You all deserve that. So we're very critical in who we choose to take. And to be honest with you, the numbers don't lie, right? Especially with our dispatch. We've let more go than we've kept, for sure. And that's kind of our policy. We're going to stick with that. It doesn't help you all, but it is the way we want to continue to move forward.
But when dispatch is below the full contingent, then that either is solved by overtime or by officers backing up, right?
Currently,
Yeah.
Any other operating questions? Going to jump into capital.
Yep.
I'm going to touch on a couple of things, and then Sharon, if you don't mind sharing your ideas on the ductwork, the pulley, and the rooftop PC that's going on there. But vehicle replacements, I think we see this every year, so that's 246 number. 53 for the patrol portable radios, the new ones, that's the 53 that's sitting there. And just jumping down to 11, you got some shed traffic equipment, just a storage area. Questions on that? If not, I'm going to throw it over to you on those large capital expenditures on the rooftop, AC condensers, and data ductwork.
Okay, so the AHU ductwork, so for, I guess, as many years as you've been in the building, they have had an ongoing humidity issue. And one of the things that we've discovered is typically when we build the air handling units, we create a place in the duct at the unit where we mix the air. Right now what's happening is they're bringing in air from the outside, and they've strategically placed VAB boxes throughout the building in the ductwork, and that's supposed to take the humidity or the moisture out of the air. Those VABs are just too small to do that. I need a mixing box at the air handling unit that takes as much of the humidity out as possible and allows those VABs just to do the minimal amount as it travels through the ductwork. So that's the reason for that. The other thing that it will correct is somewhere along the line, someone cut a hole in the duct where the air is coming in from the outside. I don't know exactly why, probably to put a sensor in, I'm guessing. We haven't been able to get in there to see, but that's a big fix that needs to be done.
Is there mold as a result?
Excuse me?
Is there mold?
Is there mold? God. There's nothing that I have measured to date, but I don't know the answer yet. I won't know. I will say that throughout the building, we're not experiencing that particular issue, except for the poor chief, and that's gone now. So it is a small possibility, but I'm guessing that there's enough airflow that, at least because of this particular issue, that's probably not an issue. Same air handler, the pulley has moved out of alignment for some reason. I'm not really sure why, but what I noticed was that almost every month in that one air handler was changing the belts, and so I had to have it looked at a little more in detail. And the pulley's just out of alignment enough that it's putting tension on the belts and wearing them out faster. The rooftop air condensers seem to be an ongoing problem. So since I've been here, we've replaced a compressor in one, and we've replaced a fan motor in the one next to it. And the one next to it is only 5 years old. So we seem to have condenser issues. So when I put the numbers together, it was to replace those two. And then as we started talking about it as a team, Town Hall needs some new condensers, and could we get some economies of scale by replacing more? And so we've looked at it a few different ways to see if we can combine the efforts, because when I replaced the compressor, because of the weight of the compressor, the size crane I had to bring to the facility could have lifted in the same amount of time, probably 3 of them. So we're trying to see if there's some economies of scale to be gained there. I am
Sharon, just for clarification, there's 4 we're talking about, right?
There are 4 total.
Yep.
And we were looking at needing to replace, like desperately needing to replace 2.
2. Right.
And pushing out the other 2 at some point. But once we found out that this building needed some work as well,
Exactly.
we thought about the overall approach,
Right.
and
So
it
I-
even brought to our attention to maybe do it all in one day.
Exactly.
It's a one-day crane rental for
Yeah.
That's right.
the town.
To do everything. And so as part of that, I looked at basically pricing 3 different ways just for our building, which was 1, 2, or 4. And then we haven't sort of come together with Town Hall. They have obviously different heating and cooling system, but still the same idea of lifting compressors onto the roof. And so what could we gain by sharing and trying to do it at the same time? Also, what could we save by buying the equipment from one vendor, and what would they give us as a discount for buying more, basically?
So are you bearing the full cost of the crane in this budget right now?
I am.
So there, okay, that could be
Right,
potentially.
because I have to assume that the travel down the street, so the biggest part of the crane is like getting it down the road and putting it back together, basically, into a movable unit. And there'd have to be some cost, I'm assuming, and I haven't talked to a crane company, when they take it down and drive it down the street. But it's a smaller cost than getting a whole nother crane on a different day.
So there might be some economies when we add your budget to Ed's budget for the crane rental cost.
Right.
And maybe a purchasing discount.
And a purchasing discount.
Yeah, okay.
So that's what we're
But these are the same type of units.
I don't know what's in Town Hall, but they're probably not the same type of
Probably
units.
not.
But because we would be buying from probably the same
Yep.
vendor, we would get some economies.
How large are these units?
So I have one 30-ton, and I have 2 20-tons, and I have one 10-ton.
I recall his are both 30-ton for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I even need to reevaluate that. So some of the engineering
Okay.
is somewhat problematic in the building. So we'd be looking at what sizes. The one problem that I've encountered since we moved into 2026 is that the refrigerant changed again this year. And so Carrier's now looking at if I would have to do something to the air handlers when I change the condenser.
What do you mean that the required refrigerant change?
Yes, yeah, the product
From
changed.
the product change?
The product changed. And it has more oil, I believe, in it. So we're still looking at if there's something that needs to be done to the air handling. That is not in this cost. So,
One surprise after another.
yeah.
Is gun range lead remediation a regular thing? Is that why it's so far out the curve? It sounds important.
It's really important. So,
No, go ahead.
I think it's really. So there are a couple of issues. The DPW has been changing. So the range has its own air handling unit. And it is a special custom-built air handler that absorbs the lead out of the range as best it can. Those filters can't be changed by my regular technicians. So typically, in this case, I would call in a vendor. DPW has been changing them. My problem is that they have not been removing them. So they've been bagging them, and I have 13 bags of lead-coated filters up in my penthouse, and I need those removed. And then we have to make a determination about what's the best way, because they have to be disposed of specially. They're disposed of as hazardous waste. So what's the best way to have them changed and then remove them? And I don't have an answer. I understand that it's obviously more cost-effective to have DPW do it, except that from a safety standpoint, I don't know that that is the right thing to do.
I assume that we've proven that they're safe to be in the building?
I personally do not feel comfortable having them in the building. I need them gone. They're bagged. They're double bagged. They're back in the boxes.
Yeah, they're in an area that no one's,
They're in the
other than
penthouse.
Sharon.
Right next to that air
Exactly.
conditioner.
See.
They're under my
Yeah.
desk.
The idea is that we don't leave them around.
Any
I
other
would-
questions?
So, I'm sorry, so that's $100,000, but it's years away. Is there a reason we're not moving that up?
So, you mean the actual range cleaning, that 100,000?
Oh, so that's not to get rid of the bags?
Yeah,
No, 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 the,
filter
getting rid of the
disposal's
bags
different.
is a few $1,000s.
Oh, okay.
That's for the range cleaning. The range hasn't been cleaned.
Never.
Ever.
Well, I mean, as far as like a deep cleaning, the backstop,
Yeah, we clear the backstop.
the backstop
as
gets cleared
regulated,
out.
yeah.
Right. So what happens is, as they shoot, lead dust is going down the range. Ideally, the HVAC system is pulling it down the range and it's going into the filters, but obviously not all of it goes there. So it's ending up on the tracks and the floor and the walls. And so typically you have your range cleaned.
Typically, how frequently?
In this range, and we've been trying to assess how often they shoot, they're required to shoot.
It depends on the amount of rounds that are fired and how much use is being done on the range for the backstop area and all that lead removal to be removed. And that could be anywhere from, 10,000 to 15,000 rounds. So it's been some time since we cleaned that backstop, especially since when we picked up Sharon. She went in the range and did some lead testing on various surfaces and realized that there's a lot of lead buildup that's happening over the years in areas that were never cleaned. And we didn't think to clean them because all we just focused on was on the backstop.
I think
So,
the
but just
backstop.
also as a disclaimer, we've had companies in here, we've asked them what we should be doing, we're doing everything that they've told us to do.
Right.
OSHA has even been in there
Yeah.
as a surprise inspection
Right.
for the entire town, and that caused us to get a special vacuum cleaner. And so it's not like we're just putting this on the back burner.
Yeah,
To
it
our
is-
knowledge, we've been paying attention to the best we can.
Yeah.
It is at a level where we could use the range, because we did do a test.
We did do a test.
We did do a test, so it's.
And Chief, do we have any other departments that use that range that we share
We
with?
haven't had in the past, I don't know what the
It's-
current status is now.
Yeah, I know New Canaan was using it for a little, it was just a short period when they were doing, I know they.
Not really affecting the shot count that
Yeah,
we
it wasn't,
would put into play as far as when a cleaning would need to be done.
not many rounds, really.
New Canaan just replaced, did they just rebuild or renovate their building?
Renovate.
I don't think they have a shooting range though. in their
They don't.
building. They have to travel out.
Do you know what the total cost of that renovation was?
30.
30
And
million.
it was a
Just under
renovation.
30.
And it's not apples to apples because it's a different building, et cetera, but it's.
And they had to work.
It is one of the
off-
ones we're looking at.
They had to go off location while the renovation was going on, so that was a huge expense in and of itself.
Yeah.
So a
That was about
temporary PD
5
setup.
million of their 30 million.
They set up a temporary PD?
Yeah, in
They set
the
up a
old
temporary-
Board of Ed offices,
Yeah,
they fitted out.
it's very expensive.
There's one capital item also in the ADA section.
There is.
Yeah.
Our wall.
So, I was listening intently to your conversation about Parks and Recreation, so we obviously have the same report. Ours is some 200 pages of very detailed measurements. So, what I tried to do was focus on areas first that were impacted by the public. This is an important one. People come to records for various things, and our window is too high. And it's in a masonry wall, and lowering it would be a big undertaking, probably close the department for a period of time. What we found was there's a little room off of the area that has an ADA compliant window in it. And no one's really sure why the wall was put up in the first place. But the interesting thing about the room is it's only 4 feet wide, so it's also not compliant.
Yes.
So, not sure why it was built that way. So by taking down the wall, I basically solved the problem of my ADA access to the records department. And I thought that that was a good way. Now, there's some things that have to be done. So we would replace the counter there. it's not quite deep enough to meet ADA requirements. There's some adjustments in the light fixtures we would make, and there's some wall patch repair, obviously, that has to be done. Ceiling, the stone tile that's on the floor, we have to infill where we remove the wall. So there's some other patch and repair items that go with that. At the same time, some fixes. There's a leak in the ceiling, so it's one of the leaks we have. We're going to investigate that, make sure we solve that problem, etc. So it seemed like this was a simple way to check one off of the very long list that I have.
It's considered a pretty big one too. This is access for the public.
Yeah,
So
I'm
it's
just
very
wondering,
important.
like, per Jim's comment earlier, like, does that trigger having to do everything else? Like, because you've
No.
renovated a space?
No.
Okay.
ADA is, I can't sit here and explain, it's a little complicated, but you would have to do significantly more work to trigger like a full retrofit. I will say, every one of our bathrooms is off also, and to your question, I'm not really sure why the design team didn't have a specialist that checked these ADA dimensions, specifically in the bathroom. I don't fully understand. They have a lot of areas on their drawing that they considered out of their scope. So in the existing building, it's a little hard to determine exactly why it happened, but the bathrooms are a particular conundrum for me. I don't know why they're off. I will say that the team that was hired. Well,
The bathroom in the lobby, though.
the bathroom in the lobby is compliant.
So that would be another public
Yeah,
accessible space.
that one is compliant,
So
actually. Yeah.
doing this work in our lobby
Right.
is where 80% of our public is interacting with us.
Right. And that's why it's.
It was a low-hanging fruit type
Exactly.
option for us.
Exactly.
When we look at it, and we don't think it's going
Good
to,
start.
to your point, trigger anything
Yeah.
additionally, just that small. Well,
Right.
not so small, but that project.
And that's 56,000.
Yeah. And I've gotten quotes from a contractor since then.
Okay, any other questions?
Any other questions?
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
you.
Sharon, thank you.
You're welcome.
Time tonight, time last weekend, waiting around.
Of course. Thank you all.
Thanks. Have a good evening.
That's for general government.
One of the big ones.
And you want to? Okay.
Ready for general government?
Yeah. Josh, do you want to bring up general government? Oh, got it.
Okay, general government goes up 4.3%, but if you back out the 53,000 for general elections, it's a 2.93% increase. If you further back out the 29,000 associated with the fire commission admin support, which is being transferred from the fire commission to the town administrator, the budget would decrease to 2.23%. So it's almost infinitesimal. So let's see.
The Board of Finance salaries haven't changed?
Haven't changed.
They're 1,000%.
Haven't changed in all the years I've been here.
They're 1,000% up.
Most of the increases are associated with salaries, whether they be full-time or part-time. And maybe you could, Josh, there's an increase of 16,000 in the depot. Could you cover that? That was for tops, I believe.
I have the. Well, that's, wait, but isn't that,
That's under community.
that's community services.
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
You just stole my thunder.
The one thing.
You could
want.
skip right over community.
Let's see.
There is a $30,000 increase in the assessor's office to add a part-time position. Given the volume of building permits, inspections, and personal property audits, there's a potential that could generate an extra $80,000 in revenue. So it would be, 2.5 times payback in 1 year, potentially. And that's Tony's recommendation as he departed.
And there was a small typo in part-time salaries for tax collection. It should be $21,148 instead of $24,148, so a decrease of $3,000 there.
And Paul got kudos from Town Hall for catching it.
Save the 3K.
Yeah, great. That'll be reflected in my next paycheck.
That 1,000% increase again.
The election budget, as Paul said, is up 53,000. That's 66% up. We've got a primary and a general this coming year, and there's early voting, which are really, some of the years gone by, there really wasn't a lot of early voting expense, but there's early voting expense and higher printing and supply costs.
But an exorbitant increase in their food budget.
In their what?
Food budget.
In their food budget, yeah, in their food budget, the donuts and coffee.
Donuts, yeah.
In prior years, there were also grant funds that were used to offset some of those early voting expenses that we have run out of, so it's falling on the general fund now.
The other thing is that there was an intern part-time last year to the Board of Selectmen. It's full-time, but it's still part-time, but for the full 7 weeks, so that, I think it went from under $2,000 to over $5,000.
Yeah.
But the report during the Board of Selectmen meeting was that was a win-win for the town as well as the internship program in town, so.
Yeah.
There's really nothing at all to really, I'll talk about revenue for a second. Revenues are projected to be up to $278,000, which is 15% increase in recording and conveyance fees in the town clerk line. And then, so that's all I have on operating. Do you have anything more on operating?
No.
So any questions on operating? And then there's 99,000 of capital, and 60 of that is the reval, accrual, and then there's a $39,000 item for desktop PC replacement. And that's all we've got on general government.
I think in the assessor's office, was it mid-year that we approved, I think it was 3 or 4 meetings ago where we approved sort of a short-term consultant to help work through some of these commercial?
Correct, yeah.
And is that was sort of a one-time, that's not continuing on through this budget, right?
No, I believe that's like a one-time for the bigger redevelopment projects that are taking place, not an ongoing expense.
What is next? Land use? Isn't it land use next? So land use and community services, both Rob and I did, and so I'll take land use and Rob's going to take community services, even though Paul stole his thunder. Planning and zoning budget, $912,000, up $11,000, or 1.3%. This budget is lower, or low. The increase is low, principally due to a retirement of a long-term employee and reclassification of that position at a lower step. Partially offset by $10,000 increase in consulting fees related to drainage study. That's really it on P&Z. On the building control, that budget is up $39,000 to $639,000 overall, or 6%. That's mostly salary related. There is a line item in here for operating and licensing drone operators associated with potentially acquiring 3 small drones. That was approved by the Board of Selectmen, although I think it was also part of a First Selectman charge to assess our drone usage as a town, and let's not put them in every department and have to license operators in each department, but let's be efficient and smart about it. But it's not a big item in this budget. And that drone study makes sense to make sure we're being efficient with respect to the acquisition, utilization, and operation of drones. So, in the building control office, you can get to certain multi-story, multi-family units and look at them from above rather than an individual getting on a ladder. So it would be, it's more efficient, it's safer, there's a lot of good reasons for it, and I think it's in this budget and probably should be in this budget, subject to that. And then a 6% increase in building permit revenue, which would be up $116,000. I think that's it. There was no capital.
What's the drainage study?
What's the drainage study?
You mean the drainage reviews?
What?
Drainage reviews.
The drainage reviews.
So
this is hiring a consultant to essentially, when someone files a plan with P&Z, they have a drainage, they have their engineer take a look at drainage on the property. They submit that to us and we pass it on to the consultant to review. It could be a 1, 2, 3 quick review and just pass by in no time, or it could be resubmitted several times if the hired engineer, doesn't kind of get the numbers, get the shaping right. So this kind of reflects, I believe it reflects kind of the historical arc trajectory, rather, of what actuals have been trending like, 40, 50, 60,000. I don't know if that's due to an increase in just the complexity, or there was recently a drainage study done, and I believe a new drainage guidebook or manual put out. So I'm not sure if it's the increase in complexity of those regulations that have to do with that. But yeah.
That's it on land use.
Okay. Human Services.
Okay, there are basically 3 different areas in this budget: Human Services, Senior Center, and Public Health. So Taylor and I will tag team. 2 different line items in the Human Services kind of area: Human Services and the outside assistance. Human Services is up 9.4%, and there's no additional FTEs. This is just salaries going up because there was a reorganization with the senior center. So you had staff taking on a lot more responsibility, and that's being reflected. And there was also a decrease in oversight coming from the senior center section of the budget. So, because Ally is now responsible for the senior center. So that's why that went up so much. We asked about there not being any increase in public assistance, just curious, because it always stays flat. And they get a lot of help from the community fund. So we asked her to send us that information, just because would be nice to highlight what other helps the town gets from another.
It's good to see the true cost of
another partner. So she's pretty grateful for the help that they get from another nonprofit in town. And there's no revenues for Human Services and no capital.
And you did health, or you?
You go ahead.
Okay, you'll come back.
Yeah.
All right, Senior Center, as Malin said, they had a reorg in April, and we weren't totally clear on what happened. After listening to the Board of Selectmen meetings, we did talk to Ally today, and from what we understand, when Beth retired, they had 2 full-time and 1 half-time resource. Beth was one of the full-time people. She retired. Liz, I think, stayed on. Dawn was half-time. She became full-time, so they were down a half a person. And from what I understand, we didn't want to immediately replace that person, but kind of see how things went. Asked them to come back after 6 months. John, is that right? And so they came back and said, yep, we do need this half person. So yes, there's an increase in a half ahead, but that makes sense. It was there before, and they definitely need it. It's really to cover the desk 3 hours a day, they're very busy, and they have volunteers from the senior community that are doing a great job, but they can't do it all. So I have no problem with this. They have 47 non-resident people on the wait list. It's a huge success. They're doing a great job. We did talk about the meals that they serve. In this budget, they have, they had a conversation about, saving some money because the chef is, one person, and she does have time off, and when she's not there, they do source from the outside, and I guess they found a less expensive option for that. So that's brought their budget down about, I think, $4,000. So in general, and I think I forgot to write the total that it went up, so I have to find it on here, but, very reasonable budget increase and.
Decrease.
I'm sorry.
4%.
Yes, and I can't find it fast enough. So anyway, the budget was totally fine with me, especially after we worked out those small details.
Yeah. Okay, and health department is a 9.6% increase. There's some small salary adjustments, but almost the entirety of the increase is for implementation of OpenGov. And I guess they're one of the last departments to get this. It's not for budgeting, it's for permitting. And you can see that also in revenue for the public health department. That is for, let's see, I have it here. Septic permits, they do like inspections. Their sanitarian does things like septic inspections, and that's where that revenue comes from, and that's what they use OpenGov for. So that was in last year's capital budget, I think, to acquire the module, and now it's the implementation of the module is in this year's.
So I'd say the module is already in place, up and running, and it does take care of, I think, the full suite of permitting that the health department takes place, like food establishments, pool permits, and so on. I think, I'm not sure why there was a lag with the health department and the other departments, because it integrates nicely into, when P&Z gets a permit request, it flows to building, flows to health, and they kind of have commingled access to documentation and so on. So it really works well as a permitting suite across all of these departments. So this kind of just brings them into the fray instead of having them in their own silo.
Right. So revenue's up 1.5% just with the increase in permitting. One thing just to know, Mindy did ask for an additional FTE. It's actually an additional 0.5. She has 2 full-time sanitarians and a part-time who only does restaurant work. And she wanted to replace the part-time with a full-time person to do everything, including the environmental, lead, housing, all the things, half-time, and then to have half-time working as a health program planner. And that person does more like outreach. They would do things like blood drives, Narcan training, vaccine clinics, things that you kind of maybe think of a public health department doing, things that are difficult for our public health department they do some of that, but to have time to do. She said that really it's best practice to have this is a new kind of position. New Canaan has one. A lot of health departments are moving to this. It was taken out of the budget. It's probably right that it was taken out of the budget right now, but I would say that it's something that she'll probably put back in. Yeah. Just so that you have heard it.
Part-time FTE.
Yeah, no, it would be a full-time, but replacing a part-time. She said part-time help is very difficult in this space, very difficult to find. But so this is not a change right now.
Right. Difficult to staff.
Yeah, very difficult to staff, yeah.
I had one other question I forgot to ask. I know during Board of Selectmen, they talked about, I think it was Monica asked about the revenue associated with the meals for the senior center. And is that the $22.70 line item increase that we see in here now? If you expand that one.
Yep, yeah, so that was, I guess, an increase based on average daily meals. So it got recalculated from 34,000 up to 36.2.
Also, Mindy did ask for capital for public health. She did ask for a vehicle, and Jennifer wants to rethink this pool vehicle, so that was pushed. That's all I have. There wasn't anything else in capital, was there?
No, I don't believe so.
Yeah, I don't think so. Okay.
Josh, ready when you are. So the big increase here is a grant to the home, look at that. It's 10 o'clock, you can tell. It's at the depot for about $16,000 increase. Maybe I missed it. What's the logic behind it? Did they ask, or was this like, what's this based off of?
I think this was requested, yeah.
Just request?
Well, the youth commission used to do this, talks. And so now they're not, so the depot is better positioned to take over this programming for this age group. Because youth commission is now rolled into Parks and Rec.
There you go, there's your answer.
I was asking for this for a long time. Better.
We're still funding kids in crisis, it looks like.
It just makes more sense.
Yeah. Okay, questions? We roll on.
So I'm doing this next one? Or is it
Yeah.
general overhead?
Overhead?
Yeah, who else is on this with me?
I think I am.
Let's see.
I thought I was.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm on the last two anyway. I mean, I can start, Jenny, feel free to jump in. And I don't ever see them lined up exactly this way in terms of overhead, but risk management was up close to 11%, or $68,000. I gotta be honest, I think I understand what's going on here with this HHR thing coming back online. Josh, if you could help us with that. From what I understand, like, take them off.
You said in risk management, that's what?
Yeah, the LAP insurance.
Yeah, I believe it's, as construction's taking place, the amount that we actually have to pay in LAP comes down because it's not in full service yet.
You like take them off and put them on a different.
It's a
like,
different
construction
stock,
plan or
yeah,
something?
exactly.
Yeah.
What's LAP stand for?
I have it written up.
Oh, man.
Liability auto property.
Yeah.
It's like a
Yeah.
group of.
It's like we used to have it broken out into, umbrella and vehicle and so on, but it got grouped into a LAP policy. So this is with HHR
So you have
plan
that.
to come on in the next fiscal year. This was kind of adjusted at the Board of Selectmen level, up 54,000. And that's the number we got from Kerma, the differential there.
Yeah, I guess it was confusing because I thought I had heard in their meeting that it was up $13,000, but then I thought I heard $83,000. I see $54,000 in any case.
Yeah, the 54,000 was the actual adjustment to that line item.
Okay, I mean, whatever, we have to do it, right? Not a question. So, let's see, workers' comp, heart and hypertension, cyber, all those insurances are flattish or down. We have some revenues from insurance recoveries. It is lower, but we just use an average from Kerma, so formulaic. Medical insurance, that's the big one. And actually, I'd love an update. It's up, it looks like here it's up 10.4%. We had talked about 15.9. What does that stand?
So the difference between 10 and 15, which are old numbers anyway, is, the 15% could be the cost to the participants in the plan or to us as the provider of the plan, but because there are different types of like family, single and plus one and different components within that, it doesn't equal exactly a 15% increase necessarily to the overall plan there. But that number has come down from what was a projected 15%. We don't have the final number now. We know it's likely to be under 3%.
Whoa,
So
really?
so there's been some good work being done on Lockton's side, on Jen's side, and Susan.
Wow. That's a big difference.
Yeah, so once we get a better sense of what that number's going to actually be, we'll kind of put that through the worksheet that we have that calculates and distributes that among the different groups, because this is, premiums based on the different union contracts, and then we'll have that inputted here, hopefully in the next definitely in the next couple weeks, but.
So that should take that
Big swing.
line item
Yeah.
from going up $474,000 to something approximating, that was with a 15% increase. If it's 3%, it'd be 20% of that number.
Something like
Right,
that,
so
correct, yeah.
90,000, and I know it's something like that.
Yeah,
It's a material reduction
it is, yeah.
in the increase for medical.
Yeah, it's
premiums.
like I'd say it wouldn't be apples to
Hundreds of
apples,
thousands
but
of
if you looked at like this grouping of premium numbers, those are the ones you'd directly be kind of reducing down and calculating based off that.
Right.
But yeah, it would be something like that, correct?
When can we have that number?
I think they're
that
still
we
kind
can-
of working out some of the details and getting the actual final number. Hopefully, I mean, I know they had a meeting, I believe, today, but I'll be circling back hopefully and see where we're at before.
But before we vote.
I
right?
believe so. I don't want to, I mean, I believe that is the plan, yeah.
All right.
And that's still with a third-party provider, we're not talking about self-insuring with the Board of Ed.
I don't,
80% of that?
I don't think at this time we're planning on going the self-insured route, especially this year. But it's obviously something that's always kind of on the table down the line to look at, because it could represent a savings, but also a risk, and it's a question. But, there's not, if you look at a fully insured versus self-insured plan, depending on how the carrier, the provider kind of prices it, there may not be a huge savings in terms of taking on a risk, especially if you're thinking of switching providers or not. It's kind of just working with our broker and seeing what the options are and seeing what fits our situation best.
Okay. Well, 3% sounds a lot better than it did, so that's great. Social Security contributions are up, but Jen said she just had a model that she needed to, I guess, adjust this year because they needed to transfer in some cash last year. Josh, did I understand that properly?
Yeah, I was under budgeted last year. This year.
And pension and OPEB contributions are down 409,000, although there is an increase in the DC plan of a small, like 29,000. That's just driven by actuarial recommendations, correct?
Well, for the DC plan, I believe it's more
Not
people.
DC, no.
Oh, for the pension,
Pension.
yeah, those are just straight off the ADC,
And
for
it's
sure.
portfolio performance driven, right?
Yeah.
Correct, yeah.
And and then contingency, our standard recommended 175 for the Board of Finance, and the balance is the salary negotiation prediction budget. Jenny, you want to add anything?
No, I just, I talked to Paul a little bit about I just looked at the performance side of the pension and all that, and I thought that on the contribution side, on the post-retirement benefits for police, they were a little bit lower than the other. They're like around 74% funded as opposed to the other areas of our pension plans that are at least 100 and as high as 129% funded. And I understand why we're way overfunded on a couple things, which is why we're not making any contributions. I just wanted to point out that 74% is, I'm comfortable with 74%.
I think it's pretty good.
That's-
As far
well,
as
that's what the
OPEBs
rest of the
go,
world does,
I think
pretty
OPEB and
much.
pension are slightly, you look at them slightly differently.
Yeah, and I understand why that number, the very high number, 129% came in where it is. But
Yeah, and especially on the, you may be talking about the PD one. On the town one, the the funded percent fluctuates so wildly because it's such a small fund.
Right. Right.
And probably the PDOPEP one is relatively small as well, so that probably fluctuates as well.
Yeah.
And to be clear, this is an actuarially driven calculation based on average performance. It doesn't, as John mentioned at his meeting a couple months ago, this doesn't change the benefit to our town.
Correct.
It's
Yeah.
just
How
the
much
rate at
fees.
which we have to fund those funds.
Yeah.
And some of those plans are included on the town side, while there are town expenses are included in the Board of Ed budget.
As well as library, they get a portion allocated to them as well.
That's it for tonight.
You had enough?
No, I'm just saying that's our list.
Yep.
Okay, I thought you were just saying you had.
Okay. So I'll send around to everybody what I know for who's responsible for the balance of them. I think there are a couple typos on one or two, but I think we all know what we're doing here. So just everyone take a look at that and just make sure next Tuesday and Thursday we're all.
We didn't look at, do you want to assign sewer and parking fund too, or, I don't think that was,
Yeah, we kind of touched on that a little bit.
we did, I just.
But we agreed to postpone it because
Yeah.
it hadn't been assigned.
So
I asked for questions, I got none, so I don't know if that means people are fine or just haven't gotten to it yet, but.
Well, does anyone want to join me on the parking fund? We can report on that on one of the.
I'll join you on sewer and parking. How's that? For next Tuesday.
We have a meeting next Thursday.
Yes. The 31st? Yeah, that's the board.
That's not next week.
This Thursday we don't. Next Thursday we do.
So Dan and,
Jen.
24th and 26th.
Next Saturday, 26th.
No, we don't. Sorry. Not until the second.
Okay.
That's the only Thursday.
So then we're going to do that next week.
We'll do that next
like the
Tuesday. The
spreadsheet.
24th.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
Yeah, send that to him. It's even better when he goes up to the screen and touches it.
Yeah.
It blows up. That's it.
Just hey, one question on the car insurance, on the vehicle insurance. Do we pay for, only because Melinda and I have to report on it, do we pay for the post insurance on the ambulances?
It's a good question. I'll have to check on that. I don't want to give you the wrong answer on that.
Okay. Because nothing else on, I think we can drop reports from chairman, from committee chairs and new business and agenda review. So if you're all okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Dan moves, Rob seconds. All those in favor?